What's up, guys? Jason Guyman here, and tonight we are going to talk about Christmas lights, but we're also going to talk about a way that I normally don't talk about marketing wise, a little bit on door knocking and how you're able to get jobs. And so we will go deep into that there. But it's been a great weekend this weekend. The weather was crappy today, but it was raining here all day. But last night I had my water rescue banquet, so that's what I did. I actually got into my monkey suit that I hadn't worn since last year at the banquet. And so that's what I think about that. And so tonight I want to hit on some things of how to, you're going to probably learn more tonight than any other night, I believe. So Eric is one that I actually met at one of my permanent light trainings back in July. And that is the cool thing about these in-person trainings is you never know who you're going to sit next to. And so Eric was kind of the quiet one, didn't say a whole lot until you went out to dinner. And then that's when we found out more about Eric and how he runs businesses and been very successful in his careers. And so it is really cool to see what his story will be tonight. And so with that, Eric, first off, just tell us a little bit about who are you, where you're from, just kind of your backstory.
Yeah, you got it. So I'm from Blackfoot, Idaho. I grew up there. I have, I since moved to Idaho Falls now, and we have been out in this area. And so the funny thing is I've owned a couple other businesses. My last one was a security company, and we did a lot of door knocking before all that kind of thing. So I learned some of those kind of traits through that. But I started hanging Christmas lights back in 2016, just kind of on the side, just like a side gig. You know what I mean? Just 10, 15 jobs here and there. And so, but I really enjoyed it. It was so much fun. And we did it as a fundraiser back in those days. And it was a lot of fun for us. And then it started to snowball a little bit. We got, 15 here. The next year we would double and get like 30 and then, yeah. And so before we knew it, we were doing a couple here and there. And so I started doing door knocking back in, gosh, it's been 20, almost 25 years now. So, and I've been doing it for so long that I feel like that I've kind of got it down to a T, you know what I mean? And so I've learned how to ask the right questions and learn how to knock on people's doors and get their attention very quickly. But so we started off doing that. So last year when I was doing my Christmas lights, I decided I wanted to take this into a full business this year. And so we had about 40 accounts last year. I wanted to jump up into the much higher numbers. And so we put together a door knocking crew and we went after it starting in May. So yeah, I was selling Christmas lights in May. So
So, so before we get too far, let's talk about, let's kind of go back to the beginnings of when you first started during Christmas lights and what we have learned through the years that would make you successful versus not successful.
so when I first started, I was probably like a lot of other people. You know what I mean? You get out there and everybody thinks that we need to compete with, the other company right down the street, and we need to be in the same ballpark pricing. And so one of the things that I have learned over just this last year, honestly, from you, I was pricing all of my jobs about $3 to $4 a foot back in the day when I first started. Um, and like I said, I was doing it on the side, so it wasn't a big deal for me. But then when you really started jumping into things and you start figuring out all your costs and your insurances and your labor and all that kind of stuff, it gets really pricey. And so one of the biggest thing that I would tell people, and I see it all the time on this site, is, people are they say all the time we can't get more than $4 a foot. And if you want to do that, I was just telling Jason a few minutes ago, if you want to break even, just stay home. I mean, that's the bottom line at the end of the day. But I think one of the biggest things that made us, you know, successful in the Christmas lighting business was, taking the advice of pros that have done really, really well. And so Jason's one of those, Dustin's another one of those. There's a lot of guys that have done really well, and they'll speak up and tell you that if you're not charging enough money, there's no reason to be doing this. You're the one risking your life, not the customer. And for $3 and $4 a foot, it's just not worth it.
And if you didn't know it, Idaho is the hose of Christmas lights for being cheap. There was another person from Idaho that was sitting across the room from you that was literally doing it for $2.25 a foot. Yeah. So, Crazy. I hear so many people say you can't get that in my area. You just don't understand, blah, 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 right? My competitor charges this because that's what you go look for, and that is what you believe, and that is the biggest false thing that you can do. And this goes for, I know I got some pressure washing guys on here. It goes for pressure washing too. It isn't no different for pressure washing versus Christmas lights. It's all the same. If you worry about what your competitor's doing, you will probably go out of business because, as Alex Hormozi says, that you charge less than them, you do a better job, and you didn't know that they were going out of business anyway. And so it is important that we make sure that we are charging properly and doing it. And I know Dustin asked you this question the other day, and when we were out there, and it's a great question, and I think I might even ask you. So, what was the difference when you started selling it at $4 versus selling it at $8? Was it harder? Was it easier? What was the difference?
No, it wasn't. It was mentality. Really, it's just I didn't make it a big deal, so I didn't push it off as a big deal to the customers. If you ask them flat, if you go to a customer and you say, we charge $8 a foot, they're never going to buy from you ever. And if you do it at $4 a foot, they're still going to be the same way. It doesn't matter. If you charge it $8 a foot and you go in there and you just blow past it, this is what my price is, this is what it includes, and this is how we do it. So this price is all inclusive. It includes installation, removal, storage, and you just go with it like it's just normal. It will be normal to the customer as well. They won't even think twice about it. Yeah, you might not get as many clients from that. You might not close as many clients, but you're closing more quality clients than you are quantity. And obviously, we want to do better clients and get paid more money than we want to have 1,000 clients paying us $200 a piece. You know what I mean? So, but yeah.
So, one of the things that I remember when you came, you had told me this was in July, you had closed about $200,000, and you're like, Jason, I don't know what I need to do. How am I going to get these things up? Because you are in Idaho, and I gave you two ultimatums of basically you either got to raise your prices a lot or you got to hire people. And I think, which way did you go with this year?
Yeah, we ended up hiring another crew. So I decided, I was panicked back in the day because I didn't know how long it would take us to do all these installs and that kind of thing. But after we got going and we trained our guys properly, I mean, you can just snap them out quick. And so, it does help to pre-bulb and get everything done and get yourself in order before you even get out on the houses. But yeah, I went from 176 accounts from July, when we were talking. I sold 176 accounts at that point. Now we're at 367. And so it's just, more people, and you can find installers a lot. It's just, you just got to find them and be patient. But I knew that time was coming. So we just jumped on it and grabbed two more guys. So we have two crews out installing.
So let's go back to the door knocking. Let's hit on this a little bit and then if anybody has any questions, you guys can ask questions on this too. So let's start off with, how do we pick which neighborhoods should we door knock in?
Yeah, good question. So, for me, I'm a middle class to upper middle class, and then obviously really high class. But it's crazy too, because I used to say don't judge a book by its cover, but I'll tell you what, it's crazy because there are some people in lower class areas that just want to feel better for the holidays, and they'll spend the money to buy Christmas lights. I've been blown away who buys Christmas lights from me. I mean, there are, even with me selling door to door, I've knocked on so many homes and I feel like I can read people pretty well. But every once in a while, I still get like blown away that, yeah, they said yes, to a $1,200 purchase. And, so you never know. But most of the time I'm hitting the middle class to upper class right in there. So
you're hitting, well, and it probably depends on each area.
Yep.
I don't even know what houses cost in Idaho, but in this area, you're probably looking about 400,000 to about $1 million houses.
Yeah, exactly.
Is kind of where you are, is where you're
about
at.
$500,000 up. Yeah.
And that's kind of your happy medium. And so once you figure out your doors, so one of my questions is if you got 367 jobs, how many doors have you had to knock on to be able to close that 367 jobs?
A lot. And so, yes, a lot. And so, but the good thing is, I tell people all the time, your one sale, you're probably going to knock on about 50 doors. That's pretty common. You'll knock on about 50 doors. You'll talk to people. But when I say you're knocking on about 50 doors, I'm talking even people that don't answer, right? And so 50 doors is pretty consistent. Now, it depends on what, your personality types. If you're really outgoing and outspoken, then your closing rates are going to be a little higher. But if you're just somebody that's new, that's starting in sales, and you're trying to learn how to do this kind of thing, I used to say, even back in my security days, one sell per 100 doors. So every door that you knock, you're just getting that much closer to your yes. And so you will find it. So yeah, I even average about 35 to 50 doors myself when I'm out knocking. And so, but yeah, that's pretty typical.
Now, one of the things that I liked what you had said earlier, not when I first talked to you about door knocking, do we go, let's just say 50 doors, so if we go and do 500 doors, do we want to be in one neighborhood of 500, of 100, one neighborhood of 100 and knocking on every one of them? Or is that, we just go here and knock, and then we go to the next neighborhood and knock, and we go to the next neighborhood and knock to get to that 500?
Yeah. So the way that I do it is I map it out in a city. So if I'm knocking in a neighborhood, I have an app that we use that we can go out when we're knocking, and we can track who we've talked to and who we haven't talked to, who said maybe, who said no, that kind of thing. And we can track it all the way through the app. When my sales reps are going through and selling, I don't let them leave that neighborhood until we've talked to at least 90% of the people, whether it's a no or whatever. It's a yes or no. They can't leave that neighborhood until they talk to at least 90%. And so that's what we typically do.
And why as I've learned, I kind of get the idea of why it is, but what's the purpose of making sure that we want to talk to 90% of the people?
The more that we can get hung in that same area, the faster your business will grow in that one area. I have one little area that I sold like 6 accounts on, like back to back, boom, 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 boom. Every one of them bought one from me. And now this time of year, their neighbors are starting to call us because they've all been referred to me now because, I got my lights back in July, August, whenever it was. But the more you can get in that neighborhood, the more basically your customers are turning into sales reps for you. The more people that are in that area, the more referrals you're going to get. So the more people you talk to, even if they tell you no right then, you still have your information left with that client that could change their mind later down the road, and they could still call you. So you want to talk to as many people as you can.
And I'm assuming another thing is if you know that Miss Jones bought from you, then you can start name dropping at these doors of saying, hey, Miss Jones right across the street, just, they're getting their lights done. And when you name drop, that always helps your sales process, correct?
Every single time. Yeah. And everybody wants to be like the Joneses, right? So they all want to be the same. So it was funny. I put up one customer's house. We did a whole bunch. We did the entire roof line, pitches, all of it. And when I was done, I had 3 or 4 neighbors that came by, and they were like, we want to do the exact same thing as theirs. And it was just like okay, cool. And if they trust you, then we trust you. And I was like, oh, fantastic. So, I mean, yeah, the more names, and I started doing that. Now I've got the Joneses, I've got the Smiths, now I've got, all of these people, and they're all doing it, and we're the ones that put them up. And so, yeah, we'll take care of you just as much as we took care of them.
So let's scoot back a step before we get door knocking. What is the law about door knocking in certain areas? Because I know some people will be like, well, I'm not allowed to door knock, or what is kind of the law? And I'm sure and you've worked in different states, so you probably know it kind of across the board in general.
Yeah. So you always want to check your counties. Every one of your counties could be completely different. Some counties will require you to have a door-to-door solicitor's permit. Some of them won't, but a lot of them are going to that now, a lot of them. And so, yeah, can you skate by without a permit? Yeah, you can, until you get Mr. Jones down the street that wears his Grinch hat and his Grinch suit, and he's calling the cops on you. Yeah, then you could have a little bit of an issue. Most of the time, the cops will just be like, yeah, just go home, Right. But you can be fined. You can be fined in those areas. So if you want to do it legitimately, you want to go through your areas and find out if you need a solicitor's permit. Typically, they're anywhere from $25 to $100 for the season. They're not expensive. They're super cheap, and it keeps you out of trouble.
Is there any paperwork that goes along with it, I'm assuming? Or
Yeah, usually you have to go fill out an application with the county. Some counties are super strict. I know when I was out working in California, we had to go in and get fingerprinted, the whole works. And so they won't let you even go out until your background check comes back and your fingerprints pass. So there are some areas that are more strict than others. Even where I live, we have to have a solicitor's permit as well. So, I mean, it's very common. Again, they're super cheap. You can sell one account for the entire season. It's covered. You know what I mean? So but it keeps you out of trouble. You don't have to worry about it. If you're going to knock anywhere you go, you always want to check your counties, because even the next county over can be completely different, and it could be 5 miles and that's it. And so you want to check every single county. It's just like when you're putting up signs in the area, you're going to want to check to see if they have things around about signs. Some of them get really upset that you put a sign out and they'll come and remove them. So, yeah, it's the same thing, except door knocking requires permits. So, yeah, it's pretty common.
So if the subdivision has the no soliciting sign in the beginning of it or on the door, what does that mean?
I love this question. So a subdivision, if a subdivision has no soliciting inside this subdivision on the front of the building, legally they cannot stop you from doing that. They're not allowed to do that. If it's still being maintained by the city or the county, they cannot stop you at all from knocking door to door in that area. They can say, hey, there's no soliciting out here, and you're still going to get that grouch. It will bring that up, but they legally cannot stop you. So they can't post that kind of stuff. I've heard of other places getting in a lot of trouble, subdivisions getting in lots of trouble by putting that kind of stuff up there, because people have challenged them and they've lost, because it's honestly against the law for them to tell us that we can't go in there. Now, with that being said, if you go into a subdivision that is privately owned and they do their own yard maintenance, they do their own road maintenance, that kind of thing, and they post that in there, they do have the right to throw you out of there, and you're not allowed. So there are two different ways to do that. So
basically, if it's a public street, it's open to anybody. If it's a private, which there's probably not a lot of those out there in the first place.
Rare. Yeah, if you find those, it's rare. But yeah, all you have to ask. It's rare when they come up. I get it all the time when I was knocking doors. You can't knock in this subdivision. Well, technically I can. I just can't. If you would have put a no soliciting sign on your door, I would have left you alone, but you didn't. So here I am. But they honestly can't do anything about it.
So obviously we find the doors, we go and knock. How do we get over that fear of that bad person in the back of your head that says you're dumb, you can't, why are you doing this? That that negative Nelly fear of door knocking. That's probably one of the hardest things to do. I would think that is one of the hardest things to do.
Well, yeah, especially because you knock on so many doors and you get so much rejection, right? You get told no over and over and over and over and over all day long. But at the end of the day, you will develop thick skin for door knocking. You just got to learn to just let it go in one ear and out the other, and it won't affect you at all. It used to be challenging for me when I'd get somebody to tell me no, because I'd be like, I'm going to go sell your neighbor then on purpose, and I don't care what it takes. I'm going to go sell your neighbor just so you know what you missed out on. And so it turned into a challenge for me. So I was like, all right, I got Mr. Grinch over here, but I'm going to light this house up so much that it will offset both of them. You know what I mean? So, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, I take it as more of a challenge now, but yeah, when I first started, I was scared to death too. I didn't like knocking door to door. It was scary. I didn't know how people were going to react. And this is back when I was selling little restaurant cards back in the day. And it was scary for me. I didn't like it. I wasn't excited, but I can tell you what, I made pretty dang good money selling door to door, and that's why I've been doing it for so dang long. And even in the security side, my card business that I used to sell all the time, I sold door to door there too, and I've just enjoyed it. And I've met so many good folks from selling door to door too that I just absolutely love it. And so, yeah, I love it.
So one of the things that I actually got a guy in Florida that's door knocking too, because until I had heard you, I really hadn't heard too many people of door knocking. But I also have another guy that sells solar door to door, and he's starting to sell Christmas lights door to door. And he's actually just slaughtering it down there, like just killing it. It's his very first year doing it. His goal is $200,000, and he's probably really close to being halfway there, or if not more than that. And he's selling jobs at $18 a foot, $20 a foot, crazy high pricing. He did 2 jobs that took him like 6 hours, and he got like $6,000 out of the stupid thing. And so it's crazy what he's doing, and he does it all through door knocking. And I know in that area, I've heard people be like, Jason, you just can't get that much in my area. Like someone up here in Kansas City, there's people doing it for $1.50. How is selling Christmas lights, and I know what he told me, and you've told me the same thing, how is selling Christmas lights different than selling any other thing door to door?
Oh my gosh. Christmas lights is actually just, it's a breath of fresh air, man. I'll be honest with you. I've sold security. I've sold solar as well. I've sold restaurant cards door to door. But, honestly, selling Christmas lights, it's the first time I've ever sold door to door where people were actually even excited to see me in May. You know what I mean? So they get super excited. They're like, well, you're different. I didn't expect you, and they're normally hit and they're bombarded with security and pest control and solar and all these other things. But you show up with a Santa hat on selling Christmas lights, and it almost catches them off guard. They're like, what are you doing? And so, and it's fun. I had so many people. My first day out, I remember thinking, well, we're gonna see how this is gonna go. And I set like 12 appointments my first day because they were so caught off guard with me that I was like, yeah, I sell Christmas lights. I know it's early, it's May, but let's get you on the schedule before it actually hits us really hard. And so, but I love it. It's not rocket science, you guys. We're selling Christmas lights door to door.
We're selling magic.
Yeah, that's it. And I get people to ask me all the time, you really love this, don't you? And I said, oh, I absolutely love it. I can't wait for the whole city to be lit up with Christmas lights. They're like, well, I can tell. Yeah.
And you know how you can tell that Eric loves it, Christmas? Anybody in the comments tell me why Eric loves Christmas? Just look at his house. He's got a beautiful tree. Again, and this is if you were selling something like this. This isn't you wouldn't sell a tree with bulbs. You're selling magic, right? The beautiful tree. He's got Santa Claus on. He's got a Santa shirt on. He's got the cup that I've already seen of ho, ho, ho. He's probably got shoes. He's got it all, right? And when you are excited about Christmas lights, guess what happens to them? they become excited. It can be, and that's the thing about Christmas, right? It can be the worst time of someone's life, and they will love Christmas, or that moment that they remember way back when. And so, if you can hit on that, that is the key to this.
No question. No question.
So, what is the best time to door knock?
The best time to door knock for me is, well, so we'll call it prime time. Prime time is from 4 to 8:30, 4 to 9 o'clock. Okay. Though that's what we call prime time. That's when most of my sales reps would go out and knock. When I was selling in security and solar and stuff like that, I'd knock from 1 o'clock until 9 o'clock at night. Christmas lights, I did a little differently. I wanted to catch a lot of people home because I knew I was going to hear the same type of objections that I heard selling security and solar and stuff like that. Was I need to talk to my spouse. I need to blah, 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 and we call those one-leggers back in the day. One spouse would always wanted to get the permission of the other one. And
how do you overcome that? Obviously with them both there, but what are some ways, because this is what everybody gets asked, how do you overcome that I need to talk to my spouse?
Well, I always say, and it's funny, with Christmas lights it's different, but I love it now because with Christmas lights I say, well, what I've found out over the years is there's always one person in the house that absolutely loves Christmas, and the other person's like, yeah, I'm fine with it, it's fine. And I say, which one are you?
Are you the Grinch, or are you the
Grinch, or are you the person that loves Christmas? And if they say I'm the Grinch, I'm going to say, listen, you need to surprise your wife, because usually it's the guy that says they're the Grinch, right? But I say, you need to surprise your wife with some Christmas lights on her house. Think about how magical that will be for her when she comes home and there's brand new Christmas lights on that house, and you didn't have to do it too on top of it. So this is a win-win for both of us, right? So you're getting Christmas lights done. You don't have to do it, and your wife's going to be stoked when she comes home about it. Those are, I always ask that question. That's my funnest one. And
what if the wife answers? What if you're talking to the wife and she does love Christmas lights? How do you answer that one?
Those are the ones that close.
Right, you're right.
They're the ones. If they love Christmas so much, they're not the ones that are like, yeah, I'm not going to ask my husband. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it.
So to get to 360 installs, how many door knockers did that take to get there, or what would be a strategy? What's your strategy on that?
So we had 8 door knockers and me, so there was 9 of us when we were knocking doors. Next year, I'm going to be shooting for about 25. I started recruiting later in the year, so I missed a lot of them heading out for the summer during, they went out for pest control, or not my competition, but they went out door knocking for somebody else. So I only ended up with 9 knockers total for the season. But yeah, recruiting for door knockers is a lot of fun. I mean, you can do it on social media. Look on your Facebook pages, post them in your job posts in the certain areas all over the place. Blast it like crazy until you get full, and then just know that about half of those are going to quit. I mean, that's pretty normal. You're going to get about half of your door knockers that are going to quit. So you're going to want to constantly recruit all the way through it until you get to your numbers that you're looking for, or you're just going to keep going until your season's over.
So how do you pay door knockers? I know a little bit, but how do you pay door knockers? And I'll ask my second question.
Okay. So my door knockers, I pay them a straight commission. We pay them $1.50 per foot that they sell. That's what we sell. I mean, when we're out there knocking. Later in the season, I started developing packages because I started liking the package idea. It made it a lot easier and more convenient to sell. So the packages, I would still sell. I would pay them $1.50, but the packages were based on 150 feet or 250 feet or whatever it was, and whatever they sold in those packages, that's what I would pay them as far as a commission goes.
So I'm assuming you just kind of went like 100 foot, 125 or 150 foot, kind of in that, what the general area was of just that.
I went 150, 200, 250, 300, and then it was, I didn't get a lot of 300s or above. So, but yeah, I was in the 150 to 300 mark, and then If they were above that or they were in between it, they would go to the package below and then just add $8 a foot that was past that. So it
Gotcha.
was pretty simple.
Gotcha. And so, what if they don't sell nothing that day? How do you does that work with commission versus non? If they don't make any money, or does it not matter?
They don't get paid.
Okay, I
So
didn't know if there was anything like labor lawish, if there's an issue there.
no, no. So yeah, it's straight commission up here. So we don't have any of those kind of labor issues up here at all.
Okay.
So yeah, and that will be something that you'll have to check in your areas. If you have to pay them a minimum wage, then just know that you're still going to have that out there. If you're going to have to pay a minimum wage, what I would suggest almost is just hire an appointment setters to go out and set appointments for you to go and close them yourself. And then you can still pay that appointment setter just an hourly wage plus a bonus if you close it. That way you're not having any issues there.
Okay, I didn't know how that would work, so that's why I was wondering about
Sure.
the commission, if it was straight commission or not straight commission. So once you get these door knockers going, do you put all of those in one area, or do you try to do one or two in an area and move them the different areas that you have?
No, so we'll all knock in the same vicinity. You know what I mean? So we'll have one knocker that's going to be in charge of like 4 or 5 blocks, and then another knocker over here that's 4 or 5 blocks. But we're all right in the same area. So when we close 15, 20 cells right in that area, they're all right there for install. So, and we won't move on until we're done with that area. But yeah, part of my job was to make sure that I'd map everything out correctly, get them their neighborhoods that they're going to knock in. So it does take a little bit of time on your side to make sure that you're putting all that, putting everybody in the same area. And the thing that I liked about my app is I can track where the guys are. So a lot of people freak out that they're like, well, I don't know if this guy's really even knocking or if he's out there working at all, especially if you have the labor laws that you have to pay him an hourly wage. This app that I use can track them. So as soon as they turn it on, I can see if that person's been sitting at the park for the last 3 hours or not. So it's nice. And then I can see which homes they've hit because they put checked and stuff like that. But you can literally see them on the map, their location as they're walking door to door.
So how many doors can a person knock and be successful in an hour, or in that 4 o'clock till 9 o'clock? So 5 hour frame, or let's just say 4 hour frame from 5 to 9.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how many people you talk to, too. And so I would definitely say you're going to hit your 50 people. You may hit more than that. I hit about 50 people. Now, at night, when everybody starts getting home, that number will drop substantially because you're going to get a lot of people who answer the doors. This time of year right now, when they're answering the door, they're already excited to see you so much because they've been waiting. Like I was thinking about getting a quote, but here you are. So yeah, please give me a quote. So you're going to get a lot of people that want to talk to you right now. So you might not hit as many. You probably hit about half during this time of year now, just because everybody's going to want to get prices from you at this point. So, but I would say anywhere from 50 to 100 in a 4 hour span for sure.
So with that, I know you've talked about, is that app like proprietary to you, or is it just a general app, or?
No, it's called Active Knocker. That's what we use.
Active
Yep.
Knocker. Now,
Yep.
what's the difference between that one and the Rabbit one?
Honestly, I've never used Rabbit, so I couldn't tell you. I don't know the difference between the two. Active Knocker was designed by the same company that does my CRM for my security company, so I just use them for that kind of thing. The guy that designed it was a door knocker in the security industry too, so he understands door knocking really well. So I really enjoyed the door knocker. The Active Knocker. It was easy to use and it's cheap. It was like, I think it was $25 a month, and then that included up to 5 reps or 4 or 5 reps, and then anything after that was $5 more a month. So
when they go to the house and they get a quote, do they how did you teach them to know if it's 100 feet to 150? How does that person know that to hit what package?
So I make them carry a tape measure. So yeah, they have a tape measure on their side. I have one guy that uses a wheel. I use a wheel, but I don't carry it when I door knock. I have a tape measure on my hip. So I do make them measure it out, just like we would normally measure it out too, and then find out where it lies in the package prices. So if it was 150 feet or less, that was 150 feet package. That's what they would get, because that 150 feet is our minimum anyway. So I don't move if it's less than that. I mean, if it's less than that, I'm still charging them that price. It doesn't matter.
So you're charging 150 feet rather than 60 feet or 150 feet?
I don't care. Yeah, no, I'm not moving, dude.
So
listen,
so then you're actually more than $8 a foot if it's only 100
on
foot.
some of those. Yeah, some of those I am. Yeah, some of them, I have had a couple of knockers that have underbid on some of them that I was like, woo, you were a little off on that one, partner. And so, and you're going to get that with guys that don't take the time to measure as well as we do as owners. Because, yeah, we're the ones that's spending all the money. They don't give a crap. They just want a commission. So they'll measure it super fast. But I've had a couple of guys be 15, 25 feet short. And I went, okay. I mean, and then I've had to reteach them and say, hey, let's not do that again. The next one will come out of your commission, not mine. So,
well,
yeah.
You win some and you lose some, right?
Exactly. And so when you put them all together, you're averaging about your normal averages anyway. So
that's good. So once you have figured this out, what is the sales process of talking to these people? Do we just go up and we can role play even in here so that way people can kind of get the gist of what are some key things that we want to hit on? Obviously, we want to be like, hey, do you want Christmas lights? We can do it for this price. No.
if you want to sell it like that, then yeah, your closing percentage is going to be super low. but I will tell you, the number one phone call I get all the time from guys is, what is your pitch? That is my number one phone call I get all the time. What's your pitch? What are you saying on the doors? You know what? Listen, my pitch it's not about my pitch. I literally walk up to the door and I introduce myself with my company and I say, we're hanging a bunch of lights in the neighborhood. You've probably seen a bunch going up already. I'm offering free quotes right now. Do you guys have somebody that hangs your lights for you, or do you do it yourself? And that's it. That's my pitch. About as simple as can be, right? But I mean, it's their responses after that is where I get them. If I get somebody that flat says, no, I'm not interested in Christmas lights, I am not spending my time trying to convince them to buy lights. I'm not.
Right.
I try to tell guys
your numbers game, right? Every door is closer to a yes. And you know that if it's 50, I just got to get to 50 doors. I'm going to get me a yes, right?
Yep, exactly. And why waste your time on somebody that is just not going to buy from you? I mean, that's just, I tell guys all the time, don't waste your time trying to convince somebody that's Mr. Bah Humbug that is never going to buy lights from you. Just move on to that next person that's already been thinking about it anyway, and they're ready to listen to you right now.
Now, will you leave them a door hanger or a flyer or anything, or you just say basically bye-bye?
No, so I have door hangers with me when we're knocking. So if no one answers the door hanger goes on the door. And so when we talk to them, then I give them all the information right there. If I don't close right then and there, then I'll email them a proposal right after that. I use the hangers when I'm knocking doors to basically tell me when someone gets home. So if someone doesn't answer the door and I put a door hanger on their door and then I walk past it 45 minutes later and that's gone, that means they're home and I'm knocking it again.
So I'm assuming you're using that door knock tracker app. Does that tell you, like, you just put left door hanger, so then that way you can be like, all right, this one, I just left the door hanger here, then basically?
Yep. One of my tabs actually says left door hanger on it. And so, yeah, I'll just put that right on that house number inside that app.
Gotcha. So what are some things that make door knocking successful versus not? Obviously, you've hired enough people. what are some personality? I guess maybe not that's the question. What are some personalities that make a good door knocker?
People that aren't scared to talk to people. That's my number one thing when I'm hiring people. When I'm interviewing somebody, if they're timid and like scared to even talk to me, I'm not going to hire them because they're going to be scared to death to talk to somebody out on the door. But if they come in there and they're like, hey man, I'm excited about this. This is cool. I've never seen, then I'm like, yep, you're going to work out. You're going to do good. So, and then I teach them the rest, right? The door approaches, the questions to ask, how to overcome objections, the transitioning, all that kind of stuff. But really, you just need to be able to talk to somebody and have a good time. My number one question I ask in interviews is, what's your favorite holiday? And if they don't say Christmas, you know what I'm saying? It's not, I'm like, listen, if you're not excited about Christmas as I am, yeah, you got to be excited to sell this product. And so it's a lot of fun. So, but yeah.
So do you do I doubt it if you do, but do you do mock-ups there, or basically you're just selling a package? And I like what you said. Well, I'll let you answer this one here question first. Do you do mock-ups, or basically are you just saying this is the package price?
I only do the mock-ups after they've closed. And that's for the installation purposes. No, because when I'm knocking on a door, I'm closing them right there, right? And so I've already gone through the whole process with the customer. Tell me what you envision on the front of your house, what colors you want. I have a slick that actually shows my most popular patterns on it that I hand them as we're talking, and it says, we've got your red and whites, we've got your red, white, and greens, your warm whites, whatever. And I have those right there. So they're already looking at it and they're making up their mind as we're talking about what colors they want. So I already show them what it looks like right out the gate. So, but I do the mock-up at the very end when they close it, just so I can show the text where everything is going, the installation guys.
Gotcha. So you're just doing that more so that way you know where everything is and what they're getting and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and for the next year, so we know we can refresh on that too. We can look at those mock-ups and go, oh yeah, I remember this one. Yep.
So I had another question, and I've been writing them down as that's why I've been looking down here, because I don't want to. We usually go down rabbit trails, and that's something that I've been having some things to make sure that we have here. So, here I've got one question here. So, do you try to upsell, or is the package basically the sell that you're trying to? Oh, I know. Wait a minute. I know what the question is. So you had said earlier that basically when you sell, you don't make it about the price, right? You don't make a big deal about the price. Can we kind of walk through of how you would talk to a customer of giving them a price?
Yeah. So I don't even bring up that I charge $8 a foot, whatever it is. I don't do that. I bring up that this is an all-inclusive service. This service we provide everything that you need to have the most festive holiday season that you can imagine. And then I ask them, what do you envision? What do you want to see here? And most people say the same thing. Well, I just want the roof done right here. I just want the roof done. And so, and I'll kind of go into a little bit what you were going to ask next, but what do you want on the roof? Okay, cool. And so, yeah, and I kind of step back almost every time. And this is why I get asked if you really love Christmas, don't you? Because I get back and I'm like, ooh, you know what else would look really good on this? If we did your house in this color, we should do some of your pathways right here in that same color, or add a little bit of red right here and maybe wrap those trees right over there. And then I say, what I'll do is I'll give you a price on your roof line, and then I'll give you a second price on the other pieces to add together, and then you can pick which one you choose at the end of this. How about that? And I at the end of it, I don't really care what they choose, because they're getting something from me, right? And so, but if we get them going and I give them a couple different options, it's amazing how many people will jump on that second option just because I brought it up.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
And so is that, I'm assuming that is when you'll be like, option A is only $57 or $557. Option B is only
Yep. Yep.
$1,300, and we can get this done.
Yep. Yep. I say your roof line is X amount of money for this one. And then if you add on these special other options right here, it's only an extra blah, 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 whatever it's going to be. And so, yeah. And then I point to it and I just say, which option would you prefer?
Actually, my good friend Rick, he was a door to door. He actually sold cookware, and basically he would be like, "Just sign right here."
And never look away.
Yeah, don't look away. Just look at it and be like,
just go ahead and sign right there. Yep.
Right here. Right here. And don't look at them. Just sign right here.
Yeah. I was telling some of my door knockers when we first started, I said, when you're asking that question, what do you envision? You always have that person on the front of their door. They're standing in their door. They're always in their door jam, right? And so you say, hey, show me what you envision. And then I turn around and walk off their porch. And I walk outside and show them. And I always just turn around and walk away. And they just follow you. They just come out and follow you. And I laugh about it because it's the same kind of thing. Like, you just sign right here, sign right here. It's the same thing, but if you just get them to move with you and have them involved in that process, it's going to go your way most of the time.
Now, do you do much tree wrapping, or do you try to stay away from it?
We just talked about this a few minutes ago. So this year I did not. I didn't do a lot of tree wrapping until just recently. I've added a few here and there. The tree wrapping for me was more time consuming, and I didn't want to focus this year on trees at all. Next year I am going to hire somebody that will just do tree wrapping, period. That's it. That's all they're going to do. But yeah, I wanted to focus on really just jumping up the clientele this year and just get that going this year. So I had a good solid base for next year.
So if you did do trees, how would you pay your commission on trees wise?
That's a good question. I haven't even gone through that yet because all the trees that have been sold, I've wrapped myself.
So basically, the roof line and the ground lights is basically what you're pushing at this point.
Right.
How many windows do you do?
0.
That's what I love to hear. See, you don't have to do 367 jobs in 0 windows. There's a purpose. There's a reason why you don't do them.
No. I've heard too many horror stories, man. So I just
you make a lot more money not doing them.
Yeah, I don't like callbacks. I just don't. I don't want to spend my whole Christmas going back to people's homes and fixing lights on windows and arches and brick. And I just sold roof lines and ridges and walk paths. That's it.
That's awesome. So what's your goal for 2025?
My goal. Well, I was shooting for 1,000 clients next year, man. So I'm still shooting for that. We'll see how that goes. It just depends on how many guys I get, but I'd like to at least double my size for next year.
So when did you sell the most Christmas lights out of this 300? Because right now is really getting the big time for Christmas lights of people getting them put up. So obviously you sold a bunch before the busy season has gotten here.
Yeah. I sold the majority of them. Well, I sold quite a few from May until July was a good push because we promoted Christmas in July back then. But honestly, the closer I got to the holiday season, I can tell as soon as we got to the holiday season, it started getting a little bit more on their minds here and there. In May, I heard the same thing over and over and over. You're a little early, partner. Yeah, I know. And I said the same thing all the time. Yeah, but last year I had to turn away a bunch of clients because we couldn't get to them. I'm trying to make it so we can get everybody on the list this year. And so, but yeah, we have sold a crap ton since day after Halloween.
Right.
It's been nuts.
So how many crews you got out walking now?
Nobody. I don't have any more now. No,
so
everybody
you're not
went
even trying to actively sell right now then.
Yep, me.
Just you and only.
Yeah, everybody went back to school, man. So yeah.
I got you. So you could have probably gotten more if you'd have kept. So what? That's a good point. Everybody went back to school. So what's the usual age of door knockers that are wanting to sell?
Um, anybody in college right now, anybody over 18 years old, but I was getting a lot of college students that were on their off tracks. So the off track for me in this area is summertime, May through August, end of August. And so that's when I get the majority of my recruits, is because they don't want to have a full-time job when they go back to school. And so they're off during that 4 months. And so they can come out and bust their butts really hard and make a good amount of money and not have to go back and get a job later. Gotcha, so yeah, that's the prime time. If you want to recruit for that kind of thing, I will tell you guys, you need to start in like January. Don't start in like April recruiting, because they will already be snagged up by somebody else. So,
gotcha. So if you live next to colleges, see if you can get in there and have someone post a job thing in there for you.
Well, crap, I've recruited in colleges by going out there and we'd set up a table on the outside when in between classes, when they're going in between classes, we'd have pizza out there and guys handing out flyers. This was back when I was doing security. I didn't do any of that for this, but you can recruit however you want, but you still got to get permission from the campuses. But I'm telling you, college guys are looking. College people are looking. They want to make some money, but they don't want a full-time job.
So do girls do better or boys do better at selling
them? Yeah, I mean, girls do really well, man. For whatever reason, they just must be more trustworthy. I don't know, but they do really well too. And so, yeah, I've had a couple people that have worked for me that have done really well that were female, and they did great.
I think the female is more of it, that it's not selling the ball, but even a dude, even if they don't know no different, it's more about selling the emotion.
Yep. So, yeah, they enjoy Christmas. I mean, yeah, they have a good time too. And I mean, the big thing is you just got to get your guys to learn how to get the emotion out of customers. My famous line with my guys is, I tell them all the time, I say, listen, when I get somebody on the door that says, we don't hang Christmas lights, my famous thing that I like to say to clients is I say, well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Tom Hanks to pull up with that Polar Express train, and he's going to bring out one of those bells, and he's going to see if you can hear it or not. And so it's fun, because if you get people to laugh with you on the door, they're more likely to open up with you and have a good time. So,
and it's more about a conversation versus a sales pitch in the first place. If you can get that right, is build that sales pitch.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that you would tell somebody is there anything that if someone's looking the door knock, is there anything that you would tell them of some words? I mean, you gave it lots of words of wisdom tonight, but some words of wisdom or some words of encouragement.
So the biggest thing I would tell guys that are knocking doors is be consistent, be persistent, but don't give up. Because, I mean, it's knocking door to door, you are going to get a lot of no's. But all you have to do is get one yes per day to make it exciting for you. And I promise you, if you just keep going and keep getting after it, your pitch will get better, your closing percentages will get better. The more you do this, the more you'll learn from yourself on what to do and what not to do. And so I think a lot of people go out there and they just try to just do whatever they can do. But, even if you start in this business, you have no idea on how to do it. It just keep going. Eventually you'll figure out, well, that didn't work, or that worked great. You know what I mean? But I think one of the things that I would tell you again right now before we go is learn some transition questions. Learn closing questions that are always leading in your direction. Don't ask yes, no questions. Don't do that. Ask questions like, if you were going to put up Christmas lights on your house, would you prefer warm white with red, or would you prefer them just warm white? What colors would you prefer? Ask questions like that are going to lead you to the next transition in your sales pitch.
And that's a great point that you're using, because I see a lot of people and they're like, man, I've tried to, I've tried 10 quotes, I haven't got nobody. And a lot of times we don't know the words that we use can turn it can be one word that you use in your pitch that can turn that person off, and you may not even know that you use that one word. It literally can be one word. It could be an it can be one word that will turn that person off, that they know you don't even believe in yourself. And it can
Yep.
be one word. And it can be a sentence, and some of you use all these words all the time, right? Especially if you're a negative Nelly, and you have that negative personality, that's going to just drive you to where it's going to hurt you even worse. But it can be things, the way you word things are so critical in this, whether you're door knocking or on the phone. It doesn't matter how you do it, but it's the way you speak, it's the way you talk. And if somebody posted earlier this week, I put out 10 quotes, I haven't closed one. Well, you're learning. That's 10
Normal.
quotes that you learned. Were they the right people? Did you pre-qualify them? Did they, there's lots of things. How did you talk to them? Did you follow up? Did you do the things you needed to do? Or did you just be like, here's a quote? And, even the way you sound and the way you project, even the way you answer the phone, when I do my in-person class, I always say you got to smile, right? Because if you're not smiling, you're not going to be able to close that well, because they can see it. Because then it's just like, hello, Christmas lights, or hello, Christmas lights, right? You can tell the difference in people's tone or in people's voices. You can see it obviously in when you're knocking on doors.
Yep. Yeah, I agree 100%.
So what is so so that was some words of encouragement. Just go out there, get it done, go do it. I see that. What do you deal with? Obviously, you went from $4 to $8 in the land of the $4 land. What is some things that you learned from going from $4 to $8?
I can actually make some money now. So, yeah, if I wanted to expand, that was the big thing. I wanted to expand. I want to be able to afford to expand. And I didn't want to be, at the end of the day, we're the ones out there risking our butts for hanging Christmas lights on these homes. And accidents happen all the time, and it can be on the smallest roof. It can be super low to the ground. And we're the ones that are up there doing that kind of stuff. And so do we want to make enough money to make sure that it's okay is the risk versus the reward good enough for you? And if you're at the end of it and you go, I made $100 on that, whatever, that's not a great reward, right? And so I think the end of the day, I was really excited. And if it wasn't for you saying, hey, you need to jump up your prices, who knows, I'd probably be still where I'm at. But I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I wasn't the cheapest in security either, and I didn't give a crap about what anybody else's security prices were. My prices were my prices. And I knew my value, and I knew my customer service was phenomenal, and that's what my customers were getting. And so if they want to pay for premium services, they're going to pay premium prices. And so that's just how that's going to go. And so don't be cheap on yourself. Don't think low of yourself, because I can tell you at the end of the day, you're worth a lot more than you really think you are.
Amen to that. So again, Eric, I appreciate you. Again, if y'all need Christmas lights, go check out christmaslights.io. We are planning on coming up with something at either one of my trainings or some of my trainings that Eric may do some door knocking stuff. We might be a whole day on door knocking. It might be a day and a half. We haven't figured out the whole thing, but it will be some in-person sales and kind of how to talk to people and how to walk through people, and the processes of how to sell to people. And even if you're not door knocking, the sales portion of it will probably help you out more than anything else anyway. And so we have been in talks with that. So I'm excited for 2024, because I know we're probably going to be having an advanced class, and I'm sure that if you're available, we'll probably have you come down and even talk into some of that, because this is what it's all about, of how to sell more, how to get higher pricing. In the group, we see it every day that you can't get it in my area, Jason. I've already seen it on this live. You can't get it in my area, Jason. And that's what you believe, and you're right. You are right. If you believe that you can't get that in your area, you are 100% right. but I can promise you somebody in that area is getting more money than that. And so that is why you have to believe in yourself and go after it. Again, if you need any Christmas lights, check out christmaslight.io and get all your Christmas lights. We have everything you need. It has super fast shipping. I've got people in Washington getting it within 2 to 3 days, so which is on the other side of the country. We got 3 places that ship, but that is awesome. Before we jump off here, what last words of encouragement for everyone on the podcast? You got any last words?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, if you guys are enjoying hanging Christmas lights, this is something you can really have a good time with, have a lot of fun with it. Just like you were saying earlier, don't be afraid to charge what you're worth. Be excited about it. If you don't get everybody, that's who cares. Move on and go find the customer that's willing to pay you your prices that you're worth. If you think that customer is only going to pay $3, you don't want them as a client anyway. Who cares? The people that pay the cheapest amounts of money are usually your headache customers anyway. And so my words of encouragement are just go out, charge your normal pricing, be confident about it, and have a good time with it. Your money will follow if you're confident with it too.
Awesome. And I would agree, and I would even raise your prices. $30 a foot on this one is probably okay, but I would even maybe think about it. I know it sounds 15,000 sounds like a lot, but you also got a lot of trees, 33 of them, and those are a pain in the butt. So with that, hope y'all have a great night and a great week. Stay safe out there, guys. Again, we've already lost one guy this year. We don't want to lose no more for hanging Christmas lights. Don't do sketchy stuff. Tie off. Don't put ladders on roofs. Don't do stupid stuff. Again, you can make millions of dollars that don't help you any good as if you die. So don't do stupid stuff. That's what I'm going to leave with. Don't do stupid stuff. Your family needs you, not dead. So just be careful. I know we're on roofs. I know we got to do things. We're getting ready, and some of you already getting snow, which, it's not a big slide. So just be careful this year. Don't get hurt. I don't want to hear anybody getting hurt no more this year. We've already, like I said, we've already lost one. I don't want to lose no more. So just be careful. This is definitely something that you should just, if it takes you an extra 10 minutes to hook up something more safe, take the 10 minutes. It's worth it. I promise you. Because all it takes is one slip, one oops, one, getting shocked. Anything like that can kill you on this job. So just be careful out there, guys. With that, hope you all have a good night, and we'll see you all later. But hang on there, Eric.